During the late summer, the bite gets really tough, and you need to be looking for 3 things to have a successful day: current, depth, or grass. And I've got 2 baits that are going to cover water and catch bass. All right, geeks, you know I love to go out and look for depth during the summer. All summer, late summer, early summer, middle of summer, I like to go fish deep. But don't be fooled, geeks. I do love to go up into the main rivers as far as I can go into that current, especially after some of those heavy downpours, those summer rains, and go power fishing with these 2 jigs, which, by the way, are going to save you some money. All right, so what we're going to be talking about is jigs, and I know jigs aren't going to save you any money, but I will say this. So when me and Mike were down at iCast, we stopped by the Dirty Jig / Nichols booth. They've always got some really cool stuff that they're coming out with, but what they did is they came out with a high-end, affordable jig called the Weekender. I love this because for us weekend warriors, we know if you love to throw a jig like I do, you know that you can go through a lot of jigs. Because if you're throwing a jig where you're supposed to be throwing jigs, you're going to get hung up, and at times you're going to lose them. It's just part of throwing a jig. So what I like about these is they come in 3/8 ounce. They've got a good heavy duty hook. They've got good skirts. They've got really good weed guards, and they're only like $4.29 a pop, which is pretty good for a very well. And that's what I love about Dirty Jigs and Nichols. Look, they're not going to put out an affordable jig without it still being a top-notch jig. And that's what these 2 are. You've got your swim jig and you've got your casting jig. Now for me, one of the things that I love to do during the summer is after we have those nighttime thunderstorms that come through, like they come through here, you'll get a lot of current, a lot of fresh water being washed in, and that will raise the oxygen content. So when you go up your main rivers, your main creeks, and those creeks and rivers are running that fresh water in, a lot of times it's perfect. It might be a little bit dirtier, it might be ultra clear, but it's still going to have a lot of nutrients for bait. That's going to draw those bait fish, those panfish, you know, those shad back up in there. And it's also going to have a lot of oxygen in it. And it's going to be just a little bit cooler most of the time than the rest of the lake. So something that I love to do is use these as a 1-2 punch. So I'll pick me up a couple of rods, tie me a couple on, and I will go to town covering water. 3/8 ounce, perfect size. I like that nice, slower fall on my casting jig, and it does skip pretty well. And I love to put the right swim bait on this so that you get a nice body roll to it. So I picked up a few different colors, just like 3 different colors in both sides. This is called, and this is literally my go-to, and it's called the go-to. And this is a color I don't think enough jig makers make. They make a black and blue, but they don't make just a straight black. A straight black jig is not to be left out when it comes to your jig color selection. But of course, you still have to have a black and blue. Now, as far as the swim jig goes, you'll notice a little bit of difference. It's got a little bit more of an elongated head, a little different line tie, and a little bit different hook in it. Now, I love this color right here. I love the green in it, and I love the purple in it. This is Alabama Brim. This is Dirty Shad. And my absolute go-to in a shad pattern, this is Tactical Shad. All right, so sticking with this, the right trailer can really make a huge difference in a swim jig. And for me, when I'm covering a lot of water, I don't want to do a whole lot of shaking. Something that I want to make sure I'm going to get is some secondary action. Now, That's why I love these XZone Swammers. The sizes that I like, if I'm gonna really cut the jig skirt down, I'm gonna go with this, and this is probably my go-to color, especially on that tactical shad. This is Pro Blue Red Pearl. But overall, on that jig, the best size to go to is the 4-inch. Now, this is a Tennessee shad because I run off and left my Pro Blue Red Pearl version in the 4-inch. But this I like a lot better because these Swammers have a very natural head roll to them. I love to fish these on a ball head jig, and they have a great head roll due to the flat back and the tail action. So what that does when you pair it up with something like this is it causes the jig to have a little bit of rolling action in the head. And that's something that the bass cannot stand. So you don't have to do a whole lot of the shaking or the twitching with the swim jig. Now, when it comes to my casting jig, which is probably what I'm gonna have in my hand 90% of the time, the trailer that I really like for it is just gonna be, because we are talking about late summer, it's just gonna be a Reactions Innovations Sweet Beaver. And I just use a green pumpkin to go with the go-to right here. Now, I will tell you, I'll cut it just a touch to fit up on this. So let me show you how I rig this. So after I make that cut, I'm just gonna come straight through the middle, keeping it as straight as possible and straight in the middle as I can get it. I'm just gonna come out and push it up over that keeper, nice and straight. There you have it. So we're gonna put the 3.5 on here, but like I said, I really love the 4-inch. The 4-inch is gonna be my go-to. I just wanna make sure that I'm matching this color. The Tennessee shad don't really match it. Now, if I was throwing the Alabama brim, the Tennessee shad would work pretty well with that. But again, what we're going to do is we're just going to come straight through the middle, push it up. It's going to come a little farther back, pop out, and then we're going to push it up over the keeper, make it nice and straight, and there you have it. Now, I will say, if you're going to go with a smaller profile, you're not going to get as much head roll out of this, but I'm going to cut this to the back, this skirt down. I'm gonna cut it to the back of that hook right there. So just about right in there is where I'm gonna cut that at. I'm not gonna cut it right now because I like to use the 4-inch. And I will say, XZone makes a swammer in 4.75. I think it's a little big for this, but if you got some bigger shad, it will work. Okay, so for both of these, I'm gonna tie the pit seam knot. So we're just gonna come through, spin it around about 5 times, come through the top loop, pull it down, moisten a little, and slide it down. Then clipper tag in. Now, I will say, most of the time, and these weed guards come way back, I might trim that weed guard out. But something you can do if you don't want to trim your weed guard out is push it down. And this is something that I do on all of my jigs, is I spread this weed guard out like a fan to both sides so that you see it's nice and wide. That way when it comes across something, if it does fall over, it's going to protect that hook a little bit and it'll just slide right across. Just something I've always done. To be honest with you, I can't prove that it works either way. All theoretical observations. So generally I do like to have 2 combos. So I'll have one of these combos, and the same exact setup. I'll have one of these for my casting jig, and I have one of these for my swim jig. That way I can switch out as I'm going down a bank. So let's say I come to a thicker brush pile and I just want to work that swim jig across it or down a log, I'll just reach down and pick it up. If I got some rock, that's where this is. I want to throw it out there, drag it, do a little hop, maybe skip it under some overhangs, and that's what we're going to do. But this rod is great for both of those. The setup is great for both of those. And this is a Fitzgerald Versa. Again, you geeks know, if you've watched the channel for a long time, I mean, I fell in love with the Versa series way back in the day. I mean, 8-9 years ago when I picked up one of their jerkbait Versa rods. And I use that sucker to this day. I actually have a replacement for it just in case it breaks. I still have never even tied it on or put a reel on it. But this is a 7.3 medium heavy. It's got a good tip on it, even though it's a fast tip, so you don't have to worry about making that cast with this 3/8 ounce. And it's rated for a quarter. You can cast a 1/4 ounce jig on this thing like it's nothing, up to 3/4. I've got it paired up with Fitzgerald's VLD10. This is a 7:2 to 1, which I think is a great ratio for a jig. Anything, if you're fishing that open water or, you know, with a casting jig or something like that, you might want an 8. But in my opinion, since I'm going to use this for both the swim jig and the casting jig, I want to stay in that 7 range. I've got that paired with 15-pound Pro 100 K9. And, you know, around here, it's going to be some rock and it's going to be some brush or some wood. Generally, that's all we're going to get into, so we're not getting into a lot of really heavy cover with a casting jig. I always say a good casting jig is the 4-wheel drive of jigs. It does everything well, but you don't necessarily want to do everything with it. There's some things that other jigs are going to do better. But this is a great jig to have tied on to just go down the bank throwing a jig. Oh, and before we get started on showing you how to fish this, make sure, geeks, it helps the channel out a ton if you go down in the description. If you're interested in anything in this video, the links will be down in the description. If you don't care, bookmark that link when you go down there, or just scan this QR code on your phone or your tablet, any mobile device you're on, and bookmark it in the browser that you use. It helps the channel out. It doesn't cost you a dime extra. If you're going to shop at Tackle Warehouse anyway, do me a favor, help us out. We don't do Patreon. We don't do memberships. We don't ask for you to pay. We include everybody, and this is the best way to help out this channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have both jigs tied on at the ready. Both of them are going to be laying on the deck of the boat. And my target is going to be, when I'm in a little more open area, I'm going to go ahead and throw this. And this is the casting jig. Now, if there's some overhangs, this is going to skip up under there real easy. I'll skip it under there. I'm just going to cast it over there. And I know a lot of you guys have issues throwing a jig and fishing a jig, but a casting jig, you're just fishing it like you would a Texas rig worm. So you can throw it out there and hop it, you can throw it out there and drag it. I mean, a casting jig, you can throw it out there and swim it if you want to. But since I've got a swim jig tied on too, this is going to be my casting jig. I'm going to throw it out there a little in more of those bare spots, some rock, some light brush, that sort of stuff. And I'm just going to kind of drag it, especially this late in the year, and maybe give it a hop or two here and there. I mean, it's really that simple. Now, it's a jig, and here's the fun part. When you get a bite, the thing about a bite is they can come 2 different ways. You can get that thud, well, really 3. You can get that peck, you can get a thud, and you just lift up and feel it. Now, I always say, if you're fishing a jig right, and you lift up, and it's just heavy, swing at it. Swing at it. That's why they created the Weekender series. If you set the hook on a log, you hook up with a good tree pounder, go over to it, get it loose. I know that can stink from the bank. As far as when you get a peck, generally that's going to be a smaller one. The big ones, a lot of times you're not going to feel them. You're going to lift up and the rod's going to feel heavy, reel down, set the hook. The thud, got a little bass to it, reel down, set the hook. You probably got a good one there too. I'm a big proponent of keeping my rod tip at about 9 o'clock, maybe just above 9 o'clock. I don't like to have it up here because when you come back and set, you're not going to have any leverage to be able to set the hook. So generally when I'm fishing it, I'm going to come up to about 10. That's it. From 9, 10, 10:30, 11 better be your tops. Because now if you get one up there, you still don't have a lot of leverage. Do not go past 12 because that's where, you know, you got a beefy hook. You're not going to get a good solid hook set. Now when it comes to a casting jig, I say this all the time. Again, you got a beefy hook, drag them in, boat hop them. I mean, you can get down there and lip them like we did if it's a bigger one, but put them in the boat. It's a jig. It's power fishing. Be powerful. Now the swim jig, when am I going to pick up the swim jig? When I run into brush or grass. So as I'm going down do nothing banks or very light covered banks, I'm going to throw that casting jig. But that swim jig is going to be something that I'm going to use, and I'm going to throw it in the middle of these big blowdowns or brush piles. Anything I can find that I can knock it into. Like I want to beat and bang and throw it through the heaviest of cover and swim it right through that stuff, because that's where they're going to be hiding right now. They're going to be in there waiting for that current to wash by any sort of bluegill. And to be honest with you, when I'm up in the river, the bluegill pattern is my favorite. This is the shad pattern. But they're going to be sitting there waiting. So I like to make a cast right up to that stuff and then let it sink down and start moving immediately. Don't let it sink too far. I want to hit the tops of that stuff and let this bait do its little roll action, which, like I said, it does get a little bit of a roll action with the 3.5, but the 4 is much better, the swimmer. And like I said, at $4.29 a jig, that's not a bad price for a very well-made jig. Listen, dirty jigs don't put anything out unless it's very good, and at $4.29, that's going to be very hard to beat. Now, when it comes to a hook set, it's a jig. Show them your power one more time. Straight up hook set, jack their jaws, rip their lips, get them out of that cover. Don't let them get you down in there. Don't play them. Don't dance with them. Don't sing them a lullaby. Get them to the boat. Boat hop them in and get them away from that cover. All right, geeks, so like I said, make sure you click on those links in the description. It does help us out. But I'm telling you, you need to go check these jigs out. They don't hang up easy. They're very quality made. Dirty jigs don't make crap, guys. You know this. Anybody that's fished with their stuff knows this. So go check them out. It's a good deal. And you know as well as I do, it don't matter how good or how little they get hung up, you still gonna lose a jig or 3 here and there. But listen, if you want to go check out a great technique for fishing a jig out deeper, make sure you go check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. 100% Watch Squad. Help us by sharing. Get to 90K or even 100K subscribers. You geeks rock.